Hello and welcome to Aging Insights. I'm Dr. Kathy Rowe, Executive Director of New Jersey Advocates for Aging Well. And today we have a large panel with us to talk about a very important topic, kinship programs and grandparents raising grandchildren. Ellen, can we start with you to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Ellen Elias, and I'm the Executive Vice President of Community Engagement with Children's Aid and Family Services.
Hello, I'm Mary Concepcion. I'm the Associate Vice President of Children's Services, providing mostly clinical oversight for all of our wonderful programs within Children's Aid.
Hi, my name is Shatenai Brown. I am the Director of Kinship Navigator program for Children's Aid and Family Services.
Hi, I am Janira Hill, the Assistant Division Director with the New Jersey Department of Children and Families.
Hi, I'm Cindy Lapidus. I'm the Director of KinKonnect, the Kinship Care Clearinghouse, a part of Children's Aid and Family Services.
Hi, I'm Sarah Jankowski. I'm the Supervisor of the Community and Family Support Programs team here in the Office of Family Support Services.
Well, thank you all for joining us today, and we have a lot to talk about. So let's start by telling us about the Kinship Navigator program.
We are thrilled to be part of this panel today with the Department of Children and Families and with you and with all of the people that you reach. The mission of Children's Aid and Family Services, just to sort of give it a context, is to empower individuals, strengthen families, and foster healthy communities. And we've been doing that for more than 126 years. So the idea is at our roots are the issues of child safety, family stability, and lifelong connections for youth. So with all of that, our commitment to supporting youth who may find themselves in a circumstance where they're living in a situation with an adult, a caregiver, who's other than their biological parent, that we provide support services not only for that child, but also for the caregivers that love them and care for them and have generously opened up their home and their hearts to serve them. So with all of that, the work that we do with the Kinship Navigator program that we'll hear more about allows us to be able to provide support for these families that have done all of that. And the great thing is that none of this could happen if it wasn't the partnership with the Department of Children and Families for the state of New Jersey, who funds this program and many other programs that provide wraparound support for these children and their caregivers. But also, it's all of the partnerships in the community, because any program can't do its thing if it doesn't connect families to the natural supports that exist in their community, whether it's schools, a family success center, house of worship, library, whatever that may be. So that's part of our role too with the Kinship Navigator program. So you'll hear from the state and you'll hear from our team to talk a little bit about what that looks like throughout the state and then specifically in Essex County.
Thank you. So when we talk about kinship, for us, we're talking largely about grandparents. Do we have any idea how many grandparents in New Jersey are raising their grandchildren?
I just want to say, before I answer your question, Kathy, thank you so much to CAPS and Ellen for this opportunity to speak about the work that we're doing together to support grandparents in New Jersey and just relatives who are caring and doing this important work. I do want to say that kinship caregiving is one of the most common forms of family support and has deep historical roots. I think across generations and families and communities, they've stepped up to care for children during times of hardship. So if you think about our Black and Brown communities, especially during history, there's tradition of deep roots. It's rooted in kinship care is rooted in resilience, survival, in love. So it's been around for a while. It's very common, but people don't go around saying yeah, I'm a kinship family. It's just
right.
They're not saying the name.
It's natural. It's the way the way people do it, and they connect with their family.
Yeah, exactly. And so national data states that there are about 2.5 million children being raised by grandparents, relatives, close family friends when their parents are unable to care for them.
Okay.
In the state of New Jersey, there are 54,000 children that are being raised by kin with no parent present in the home. What does that look like for the listeners that you have, Kathy? So that's about like 41,000 grandparents who may be responsible for raising their grandchildren. That's
wow.
Yeah. Our Kinship Navigator program, like the network, has supported 2,300 kinship families in 2025 across the state. And I think a point that I do want to make, and I think like Sarah, she's the unit supervisor, and she'll get a chance to introduce herself. And Shatenai, she'll be able to talk about like the boots on the ground experience with implementing KNP. But I do want to share that like what's especially important to understand is that many of the caregivers we serve for our program that we oversee are in informal arrangements. So they live outside, or they're outside of the formal child welfare system. So the difference is that they're doing this full-time work of parenting, both without having like clear legal authority or maybe the financial support or the time to prepare for everything, the responsibility that comes with taking care of a child, or sometimes what we see in our program are children, right? Okay. So unlike adoption or maybe like foster care, the caregivers we see in our Kinship Navigator program, foster care, adoption parents, like they have the time and the opportunity to process and arrive at the decision to do that and to take on that responsibility. They have time to prepare emotionally. They can plan for the transition. Many of our informal caregivers, they step in at the middle of a crisis. And so they're really juggling at the same time. They're juggling those emotions. They're juggling the crisis. They're trying to stabilize the child. They're often trying to deal with the child's complex emotional, behavioral, practical needs, while also managing their own stressors, right? And like as aging, you have your own maybe limited health concerns, or maybe there's a fixed income, your own work, grief, a sudden shift with plans. Maybe you're planning for retirement and now like things are just changing because of this circumstance. So that's why kinship care this program is super important. Just to kind of like wrap up the spiel that I have, Kinship Navigator, or KNP, which some of us, you may hear us refer to it in short, it's a statewide model. So Shatenai, she oversees one part of the region, but our office or the department, it oversees a statewide model. So we contract with 4 nonprofit agencies across the state of New Jersey. So no matter where you are in the state, families can get support. And those agencies hire staff who work with families, who provide support in the communities locally. Each of those agencies, no matter where you are, do provide the same structure. And that's like case management support, wraparound stipend for families. And the team will get into detail with all of that. There's also support to access legal guardianship, and most importantly, connections to other community services and resources. So just as Ellen said, the partnership is key to everything. Like you can't do it alone. And as you know, as a parent, as a caregiver, you can't, it does really take a village to do everything.
Thank you, Janira. And as you can see on the map, there are resources all throughout the state. So next, I wanted to ask you all, what are some of the circumstances that lead to family members stepping in? You had mentioned that, in other situations, people can plan and be prepared, but it sounds like this can often be a sudden, unplanned event or circumstance that happens. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
First of all, I'm very happy to be here with all of you lovely people. But children can end up with relatives or family members for a variety of reasons: parental substance misuse, mental health issues, incarceration, death of a parent. But just so our viewers are aware, there is no requirement for why the child may be placed outside of the home, to receive services with us.
So it could be a variety of reasons. There's no checklist or eligibility criteria.
Yes, so there are some eligibility criteria. So who is eligible would be a child that lives with a family that lives outside of the home with a non-biological parent and does not have DCP&P involvement. A child who is up to 18 years old or 19 if they graduate high school before their 19th birthday, or 21 with a disability.
Okay.
Another criteria for eligibility is the biological parent cannot live inside of the home with the child and the person that is taking care of them.
Clearly, the children there are going to be challenges for a child in this situation. There's disruption. But what are some of the challenges that you see the grandparents or other older relatives face when they step in? What are the challenges that they have to prepare for or navigate through?
It could be many levels and areas of stress for the caregiver and for the youth. When it's not a planned arrangement, there's most of the time the caregivers are unprepared for like the concrete needs, like beds and dressers, other furniture that may accommodate for the household. A lot of our elders specifically are on a fixed income. Mm-hmm. So every dollar is accounted for, They also may be beyond like the child rearing stage of their lives. All of their children are grown and out of the house, and now they're just being pushed back into it. Mm-hmm. It can be a lot of emotional stress on the caregiver and the child, as well as social isolation. I've mentioned the financial strain. Some of our caregivers are still working, but again, because they're beyond their child rearing stage, now they have to figure out childcare and how they're going to get the child to and from school. Caregivers may also have their own medical needs and have to navigate different types of relationships with the biological parents, which can be difficult sometimes. And if a child has experienced any type of grief or trauma from being away from the parent, now that's something else that a caregiver would have to, take into account.
Wow, so that can be a very challenging situation. But let's talk about the resources that you all offer to help people navigate through this.
So we pride ourselves on being active in the community. As we're establishing ourselves in Essex County, our focus has been on building partnerships and relationships with community organizations and schools and other service providers, such as FSCs, which are Family Success Centers.
Okay.
Family Success Centers do so much. They provide the ability for our caregivers to be able to connect, to go there and have different types of resources and classes. They also are able to provide our caregivers with any type of needs that they may have a lot of the times. And if they're not able to provide, they're able to refer them to other places as well that they are aware of. They are our backbones in the community at this point.
Okay.
Can I piggyback off that, Kathy?
Please do.
As Shatenai is talking about the partnerships that CAVS is developing on the ground, we at the state are also thinking about potential partnerships because we do have services statewide and have different programs that sit in different places or connections right from our office. For instance, we have tapped into the Office of Faith-Based Services, right? So folks that also have different connections in these communities that really may be servicing or meeting with the same audience that CAVS is looking to connect with in terms of grandparents and kin caregivers. So I think it's a nice partnership as as CAVS is really looking to nurture relationships that they have, we're also opening doors with the partnerships we have and the data we have to say, okay, here's some hotspots of caregivers based on data we have from, other, whether it's departments in our office and division, or, again, from the partners that we have, using that to help direct where marketing and outreach is being done to reach those caregivers that maybe hadn't known about K&P before. So it's really an integrated, I'd say, approach to trying to reach all the caregivers that are out there to offer them the support that's available.
I was just going to jump in to say that really what you're both saying, what Janira said earlier, what you're saying now, Sarah, and that the important piece in that is that not all kinship caregivers call themselves a kinship caregiver. So they may exist in many spaces, but they don't know that that's what they are and that they could get additional support. So some people might identify themselves right away, and other people, we need a little bit more of an explanation. So the more relationships that we have with these other places, they know who may be raising a child other than their own, and they then can connect them to those kinds of supports. So I just want to add that piece.
And additionally, just to piggyback off of what everybody has been saying, our K&P program really uses a individualized, person-centered approach, meaning that our services are really tailored to the individual needs, strengths, goals of the caregiver, rather than using kind of like a one-size-fits-all kind of service plan. It's that we are person-centered, and that means really meeting a caregiver where they're at, whether that means physically, emotionally. Being able to provide that kind of service, I think, is really important in helping to make caregivers feel safe and heard and respected.
Yeah. I think that's so important because in our work, we talk a lot about caregivers, and, we usually assume that's caring for somebody who's older, right? An aging parent or an aging spouse. And Ellen, we often hear what you alluded to, that caregivers don't often see themselves in that role. They're just doing it. Like, of course they're doing it. Of course they step in, and they don't realize it's really a heroic feat they're taking on. But we do have to acknowledge that it is an important role. It can be wonderful. It can be stressful. It can be many things. And as Mary said, it has to be person-centered because it's not one size fits all. So I'm glad you really highlighted that it's, you're recognizing the different needs that different people have. And the other thing I'm hearing you say over and over is the connections and partnerships that you have. So it's not just your offices take care of everything. You are really like embedded into the community and connecting with different organizations all around, aren't you?
Kathy, can I did want to piggyback off of what Mary and Ellen said.
Sure.
Even if it's helping some caregivers to recognize their identity of being a caregiver, I think also it's important for us to educate our partners in our programs in the community. Like, this is a unique family, right? It's not just any family, but it's a unique family. They have special needs that you have to look out for. And then you just don't do a program and invite them. It's just how do you understand what they need? And how do you cater to that? Things to consider, whether you are at a family success center, building your calendar of activities. What does that look like to cater to kinship families or to a kinship caregiver? What does wellness or well-being look like? Or if you are an educator and you have a kinship child in your classroom or in your school, what does it look like to do outreach to kinship families? How do you communicate to them? How do you, right? And so it's how do we have resources for the community to support the kinship families as a whole? So it's reciprocal. So we're talking to each other.
Good.
Yeah.
And it sounds, you were saying it's a unique kind of family. But there are a lot, like the numbers that you said earlier, 54,000 children, that's larger than most New Jersey towns if we looked at it all together. So this is really a lot of children and older adults caring for them that we're talking about, right? So I'm guessing that if they are aware of one kinship family, either in their church or their school, there's a good chance there are others.
It's actually, the statistics show that 70% of kinship caregivers are grandparents, with the other 20% being aunts and uncles, and then the rest being made up of family friends, siblings, teachers even. So 70% are grandparents, thanks to ChatGPT.
And just to add to that, sorry, Kathy, is, thinking about, especially the audience who's watching this, is even if they're not necessarily a caretaker, they may know someone in their spaces, and they can serve as messengers about the program, right, to get the word out even more, because that's been one of our really heavy goals here with our office, is reaching all those caregivers that don't know, right? We know based on data that they exist out in the world, and working, not just in silos, to reach those groups so they know and can receive the support that's available to them. So I think it's just really important that, if there are caregivers that are listening or know about the program, or those that don't, that they feel comfortable enough knowing about the program to be messengers, right? Kind of spread the word, like, hey, there's a program that you might be eligible for. All you got to do is call 211, and get some more information, because it might really be good for you and, the child that you're caring for.
So, you have a lot of connections and you've identified resources in the community, but when someone takes the responsibility for raising a child, do they need to go through a legal process? And if so, what does that entail? Is it necessary or is it optional to go through a legal process?
To be eligible for our program, you don't have to have legal guardianship.
Okay.
That is something that we assist with. We can assist and hold your hand through the process as you are obtaining legal guardianship. And since we're on the topic of legal guardianship would allow the caregiver to make important decisions for the child, including medical care, school enrollment, educational decisions, access and services, and benefits. So realistically, sometimes they believe that they have to have legal guardianship, and they believe that if they get legal guardianship, it takes away the rights of the biological parents. And that's not true. All that legal guardianship does is extends the rights of the parents, so that the caregiver also has access to being able to enroll a child in school, or get the medical care, or any additional things that a parent would be able to do, a biological parent would be able to do, the caregiver will have the rights to do as well.
So does that make it easier for parents and family members to agree and organize around that it's not relinquishing parental rights, it's adding a new layer and giving that family member, the caregiver, the ability to do more for the child?
I think that having that option, provides some level of comfort to all involved, that there is someone who's there on a day-to-day basis that can make decisions if a parent is just unable to at that time. But I did want to also note that, caregivers don't have to have custody of a child to be eligible for this program. The child needs to reside with them, right? And they need to prove that they're in a caretaking capacity. So even if that's informal, without going to family court, without going the route of kinship legal guardianship, if there's a child in their care that they're providing daily care to, informally, then they could be eligible, right? That kind of arrangement is eligible as long as they meet the other criteria, such as income. So there are several routes to be able to enter services with our KNP program.
Now, Cindy, can you tell us about your specific program and how it's different from but works with the other programs?
Sure, definitely. So my program is KinKonnect, the Kinship Care Clearinghouse, and we are also funded by the state of New Jersey, and we are run under the auspices of Children's Aid and Family Services. We're a statewide program, so we work with families throughout the entire state of New Jersey. We have a comprehensive website that has resources and supports for kinship families. And this can be kinship families that are informally going through the kinship process that will eventually become part of the Kinship Navigator program. It can also be families that are going through the formal process of becoming resource parents through the state of New Jersey to care for their grandchildren. So we can help families kind of navigate which direction should we be going, and give them resources in their communities that can help them. We also have a free lending library. Families can borrow books from our library that are kinship related. They're books, children's books that kind of help explain to their grandchildren, that it's okay, that your family is like other families. There are other families like ours, and kind of gives them that connection and knowledge that they're not alone out there. We also have event listings and articles and handbooks available, and we also provide parent education programs to support groups and community partners to kind of work with kinship caregivers and provide them some education and resources.
Oh, wow. We are going to put all of that on our website so people can find it more easily. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. We want you to check out our website. It's www.KinKonnect, and you'll see it down here. Or give us a call. We have a warm line. You can reach out to us via email or phone call, and you will have someone will get back to you and help you to find resources, answer questions, or just listen and lend a listening ear. So we really would love for you to give us a call.
So with everything we talked about, I mean, this can be stressful to be a caregiver, especially in an emergency situation. But can you tell us some of the upside and what it's the positive side of being a grandparent who's raising grandchildren?
Well, interestingly, in our most recent newsletter, Kathy, we learned that there was a study done that indicated that grandparents who helped to raise their grandchildren actually were healthier and had health benefits from that.
The most important message that we at the Kinship Navigator program want caregivers to hear is that they are not alone. Stepping in to care for a child is an incredible act of love and commitment. And we want you to know that there are resources and supports available to help you navigate this journey. The Kinship Navigator program will walk alongside any caregiver and connect you with services and ensure that you have the tools that you need to provide stable and nurturing homes for the children in your care.
You often hear young people say just doing it for the culture. And I feel like our kin caregivers are truly doing it for the culture. And what I mean by that is that they are really keeping the family line going. They are keeping connections going. They're keeping children together. They're keeping siblings together. They're keeping the siblings and the children in the neighborhood connected to their schools, connected to their family, connected to their roots, to their heritage, keeping them all together. So they're really doing it for the culture. And so at the drop of a dime, a child may be abandoned, or a family biological parent may be incarcerated, or they may be struggling with substance abuse issues. And they're willing to step up and make things happen. And with the use of the program, the funds, they can purchase things like a bed or a dresser, or maybe help the child go to a camp or get tutoring services, or maybe even pay for counseling to kind of work through some of the issues that they're struggling with because of this. But they're still doing it. And that's the resilience. And so it's like the everyday heroes. So they get overlooked.
Really beautiful.
They're there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you. That's really beautiful and good to know.
In addition, and really also based on what Shatenai was saying as well, is that a message that we would give to the caregiver is that you don't have to do this alone. Being a caregiver in general can be stressful and emotional. the stipend and the resources, which are very important, and putting those aside, it's that you don't have to go through this alone. Whether or not the caregivers are moving forward with AKLG or not, we have these wonderful case managers who can hold your hand, metaphorically or physically, through the process of something that can be very challenging.
And I would add that there are so many adults who I know who were raised by grandparents, and they will speak about the impact that living with that grandparent has had on their life and their commitment to having received such love, stability, care, learning. It really transcends those moments of a child living with their grandparent. It really is long lasting, and they would never have traded it for the world. So in a situation where it could be like a high level of risk for a child for many challenges in their life, whether they then, because of the trauma of being removed from their parental home or not living with their parents, is that they find themselves in a situation where they have a really strong, stable, loving, caring adult. And that buffers against the trauma or other kinds of experiences that they may have had while they were in a different circumstance. So not living in the place where you're used to living can have an impact. And knowing that there's this very stable, secure person who loves you with all their heart and is willing to step in is really golden.
You really are the epitome, right, of resilience and strength and love and dedication, and the sacrifices that you make to provide that stability and love and protection around that child is something that is truly, I know from my seat where I sit here at DCF, the stories that we have the pleasure of hearing about is just how strong caregivers are, right? They're the best advocates for these children that they care about. And like Janira said, right, the unsung heroes that step up to the plate and face these challenges every day, these additional stressors, but do it lovingly, right, and in a committed way, and they don't give up on the children. And that's something that really fills our souls here at our office, and partnering with CAVS and our other providers, is knowing that we're supporting these unsung heroes so that they don't have to feel the challenges alone, right? There are resources out there that they can be linked to, because it does take a village. And, that's why we're here to help.
Well, thank you, all of you, for what you do and for providing these services and for helping us get the word out about it so more people can take advantage of this. And I want to thank you all for joining us. This is such an important service and resource. And I knew that there were a lot of grandparents out there raising grandchildren. Even I didn't know how many are throughout the state. And I'm so glad that we have you all working in this space to help people.